Colorado Territory, 1871. Rain pounded the tin roof of the Silver Dollar Saloon like 100 tiny hammers, drowning out the piano player's attempts at a cheerful tune. Hunter Prescott stood at the bar, one boot propped on the brass rail, staring into his whiskey glass as if it held answers instead of just cheap liquor. At 25, his shoulders already carried the weight of a man twice his age. "No man belongs to anything out here but the land," his father had told him before bleeding out from an Apache arrow 3 years prior. Hunter had taken those words to heart. The frontier was merciless, it took everything you loved eventually. Better to own nothing, love nothing, be nothing but a drifter. A man alone couldn't be hurt. Lightning flashed, illuminating the rain-streaked windows of the saloon. The bartender slid another whiskey toward him without asking. Hunter nodded his thanks, feeling the comfortable numbness spreading through his limbs. Tomorrow he'd ride out again, back to the Clayton ranch where he'd been working as a hand for the past 6 months, the longest he'd stayed anywhere since burying his father. "Planning on drowning yourself tonight, Prescott?" The voice belonged to Silas Clayton, his employer and perhaps the closest thing to a friend Hunter had allowed himself. "Just waiting out the storm," Hunter replied, straightening his lean frame. At just over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist, he cut an impressive figure despite his youth. His light brown hair curled slightly at his collar, and a day's worth of stubble shadowed his strong jaw. Silas clapped him on the shoulder. "Good, because I need my best hands sober tomorrow. Got a new herd coming in, and I don't trust anyone else to help me assess them." Hunter nodded. He knew cattle, it was one of the few things he was proud of. He could read a steer's health at 20 paces, predict a stampede before the first hoof thundered, and break the wildest bronc without killing either the horse or himself. These skills had kept him employed and moving ever westward as the frontier expanded. "I'll be there," Hunter promised, downing his drink. Silas hesitated, studying the younger man. "You know, son, there's more to life than just surviving it." "A man needs roots." Hunter's jaw tightened. "Not this man." "Suit yourself," Silas shrugged. "But my Maggie's been asking why a handsome young buck like yourself hasn't settled down. She's got half a mind to parade every eligible girl in the county past you." Hunter groaned. "Tell Mrs. Clayton I appreciate her concern, but I'm not looking to get hitched." "Everyone's looking for something, Prescott. Most just don't know what until they find it." With that cryptic comment, Silas departed, leaving Hunter alone with his thoughts. Outside, the storm intensified. Hunter decided he'd had enough whiskey and solitude for one night. Tossing coins on the counter, he pulled his duster tight around him and stepped out into the deluge. The main street of Golden Creek had transformed into a river of mud, forcing him to pick his way carefully toward the livery where he'd stabled his horse. The rain was so heavy that he almost missed her, a slender figure huddled beneath the overhang of the shuttered general store, clutching a small valise to her chest. Lightning flashed again, illuminating her for an instant. A young woman completely drenched, her blue dress plastered to her trembling form. Hunter hesitated. It wasn't his business. Whoever she was, whatever trouble she was in, it had nothing to do with him. The smart play was to keep walking, get his horse, and find shelter for the night. But something, perhaps the way her shoulders shook with what could have been cold or tears, made him change course. "Miss." He called, approaching slowly so as not to frighten her. "Are you all right?" She startled, pressing herself back against the storefront. As he drew closer, Hunter saw she couldn't be more than 20 years old, with wide hazel eyes and dark blonde hair plastered to her pale face. Despite her bedraggled appearance, there was a natural beauty to her features that even the rain couldn't diminish. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice quavered. "Please just go about your business." Hunter noticed her accent immediately, Eastern, educated. She was a long way from home. "You don't look fine," he observed, stopping a respectful distance away. "It's not safe for a woman alone out here, especially not at night in weather like this." She lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm waiting for someone." "In a closed store during a thunderstorm," Hunter raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, I don't mean to contradict you, but that seems unlikely." A flash of uncertainty crossed her face. She clutched her valise tighter. "Look," Hunter said more gently, "I work for Silas Clayton at the Double C Ranch outside town. I can take you somewhere safe for the night, the hotel, maybe, or there's a respectable boarding house run by the preacher's widow." "I have no money," she admitted, her voice barely audible above the rain. Hunter sighed inwardly. This was exactly why he avoided entanglements, but he couldn't leave her standing in the rain either. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated before answering. "Amelia." Amelia Adler's. I'm Hunter Prescott. He extended his hand, then awkwardly withdrew it when she made no move to take it. Miss Adler, I give you my word as a gentleman that I mean you no harm. But you'll catch your death out here. Another roll of thunder punctuated his words and Amelia flinched. Her resolve seemed to crumble. Where would you take me, she asked, to Mrs. Holloway's boarding house. She's strict but fair and I can cover a night's lodging until you sort things out. When she still hesitated, he added, or I can find the sheriff if you prefer. No, the word burst from her with unexpected force. No sheriff. Please. Interesting, Hunter thought, but kept his face neutral. Mrs. Holloway's then. Amelia nodded slowly, then swayed on her feet. Hunter moved without thinking, closing the distance between them and catching her elbow to steady her. Up close he could see the exhaustion etched across her face and the dark circles beneath her eyes. When did you last eat? He asked. Yesterday, I think. She tried to pull away but her legs buckled. Hunter made a quick decision. In one smooth motion he swept her into his arms, valise and all. She was lighter than he expected, and despite her initial protest, she soon sagged against his chest. I've got you, he murmured, feeling oddly protective of this mysterious woman. You're safe now. As he carried Amelia through the rain toward Mrs. Holloway's, Hunter couldn't shake the feeling that his solitary existence had just become considerably more complicated. And strangely enough, the thought didn't trouble him as much as it should have. Mrs. Holloway, a stern-faced widow with kind eyes, took one look at the bedraggled pair on her doorstep and ushered them inside without question. After learning the situation, she clucked her tongue sympathetically. Poor lamb, she said, eyeing Amelia. She needs dry clothes, hot food, and rest in that order, Mr. Prescott, wait in the parlor while I get her settled. Hunter paced the small parlor, wondering what he'd gotten himself into. He'd promised to return in the morning to check on Amelia, and he'd paid for 3 nights' lodging in advance. It was more involvement than he'd allowed himself with anyone in years. Mrs. Holloway returned eventually, wiping her hands on her apron. That girl's been through something terrible, mark my words. Half-starved and frightened of her own shadow. Did she say where she came from? Hunter asked. Philadelphia originally, came west as a governess for some banker's family in Denver. Beyond that, she's not saying much. Mrs. Holloway fixed him with a penetrating stare. What's your interest in her, young man? Just being neighborly, Hunter said, reaching for his hat. Make sure she eats, please. I'll come by tomorrow. As he rode back to the Clayton ranch through the lessening rain, Hunter couldn't get Amelia's face out of his mind. There was a story there, probably not a happy one, but it wasn't his problem. He'd done his Christian duty, and tomorrow he'd check on her one last time before washing his hands of the whole situation. Yet something told him it wouldn't be that simple, not this time. The next morning dawned clear and bright, as if the previous night's storm had never happened. Hunter finished his chores early, earning a knowing look from Silas when he asked permission to ride into town. Wouldn't have anything to do with that girl you rescued last night, would it? Silas asked, leaning against the corral fence. Hunter's head snapped up. How did you? Small town, Silas grinned. Mrs. Holloway's nephew works at the livery. Said you carried in a half-drowned angel and paid for her lodging like a regular knight in shining armor. I just did what anyone would do, Hunter said stiffly. Not everyone, son, not everyone. Silas waved him off. Go on then, be back by sundown, we've got work tomorrow. Hunter found Amelia in Mrs. Holloway's garden, sitting on a bench with her face tilted toward the sun. In daylight, with her hair dried to a honey blonde and wearing a borrowed dress that was slightly too large, she looked both younger and stronger than she had the previous night. When she spotted him, she stood, smoothing down her skirts nervously. Mr. Prescott, she acknowledged, I understand I owe you my gratitude. No need for thanks, Hunter said, suddenly awkward. He removed his hat, turning it in his hands. I'm glad to see you looking better. Mrs. Holloway has been very kind. Amelia's eyes darted past him, scanning the street as if expecting trouble. She says you paid for 3 nights. Hunter nodded, figured it would give you time to make arrangements. That was generous, especially to a stranger. She studied him carefully. Why did you help me? The directness of her question caught him off guard. I couldn't just leave you standing in the rain, he said with a shrug. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Many would have. I'm not many, Hunter replied, then immediately felt foolish for the statement. Amelia seemed to consider this. No, I don't suppose you are, she gestured to the bench. Will you sit for a moment? He did, keeping a respectable distance between them. Up close, he could see her eyes weren't simply hazel but a complex blend of green and gold, framed by dark lashes. There was intelligence in those eyes and wariness. I need to find work, she said without preamble. I can't impose on your charity or Mrs. Holloway's kindness indefinitely. What kind of work are you looking for? Hunter asked. I'm educated, I can teach, keep accounts, serve as a lady's companion. Her chin lifted slightly. I'm not afraid of hard work, Mr. Prescott. Call me Hunter, he said automatically, and I believe you. It's just that Golden Creek isn't exactly Denver. We've got one schoolteacher already, and most businesses are family-run. Disappointment flickered across her face. I see. Hunter found himself wanting to erase that look from her eyes. The ranch where I work, the Double C, they might need help. Mrs. Clayton's been talking about finding someone to help with the household and maybe teach their younger children. You would recommend me, you know nothing about me. I know you didn't steal my wallet when you had the chance last night, Hunter said with a half-smile, and I'm a pretty good judge of character. Amelia studied him for a long moment. Why are you being so kind to me? The question struck uncomfortably close to one Hunter had been asking himself. Maybe I'm just building up credit with the Almighty, he deflected. I don't believe that, she said softly. Neither did he, but he wasn't ready to examine his motivations too closely. Instead, he changed the subject. Are you running from something, Miss Adler? He asked directly. She tensed visibly. Why would you ask that? Your reaction to the mention of the sheriff, the way you keep watching the street. Hunter turned to face her. I'm not judging, but if there's trouble following you, I'd prefer to know what kind. Amelia's hands twisted in her lap. It's not what you might think, I haven't broken any laws. But someone's looking for you. She nodded almost imperceptibly, yes. Someone who means you harm. Another nod, more definite this time. Hunter sighed, running a hand through his hair. Against all better judgment, he made a decision. All right then, if you're willing, I'll take you out to the Clayton place this afternoon. Silas and Maggie are good people. If they hire you, you'll be safer there than in town. Relief washed over her face. Thank you, I promise I won't bring trouble to your friends. See that you don't, Hunter said, more gruffly than he intended. He stood and settled his hat back on his head. I'll come back with the wagon at 2 o'clock. As he walked away, Hunter could feel her eyes on his back. He was breaking his own cardinal rule, getting involved. But something about Amelia Adler made him want to protect her, despite the warning bells clanging in his mind. Maggie Clayton took to Amelia immediately. A robust, practical woman in her 50s with iron-gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She interviewed the young woman in her spacious kitchen, while Hunter waited awkwardly on the porch with Silas. Maggie's been desperate for help since our last housekeeper married the blacksmith, Silas explained, whittling a piece of wood. With 4 children still at home and this place to run, it's been wearing her down. Miss Adler seems capable, Hunter offered. Silas gave him a sidelong glance. She's mighty pretty too. Hunter didn't respond and Silas chuckled. Don't worry, son, your secret's safe with me. There's no secret, Hunter insisted. I'm just helping her out. Silas continued whittling. That why you're wearing your good shirt and actually combed your hair today? Hunter was saved from responding by the opening of the front door. Maggie emerged beaming with Amelia following behind. She starts immediately, Maggie announced. I've given her the room off the kitchen. Hunter, be a dear and bring in her valise from the wagon. And just like that, Amelia Adler became part of life at the Double C. In the days that followed, Hunter tried to maintain his distance, focusing on his work with the cattle and the endless tasks of a working ranch. But he found his eyes drawn to her whenever she was near, hanging laundry in the yard, helping the youngest Clayton children with their letters on the porch, or bringing water to the men working in the corrals. She fit into ranch life with surprising ease for an eastern city girl. Hunter overheard Maggie telling Silas that Amelia was a godsend, efficient, intelligent, and wonderful with the children. The only concerning thing was her refusal to go into town, even for Sunday services. A week after Amelia's arrival, Hunter was mending tack in the barn when she appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright afternoon sun. Mrs. Clayton said I might find you here, she said, stepping inside. I brought you some lemonade. Hunter set aside the bridle he was repairing and accepted the glass gratefully. Thank you, it's thirsty work. Amelia didn't leave immediately as he expected. Instead, she lingered, watching him work with curious eyes. I wanted to thank you, she said finally, for bringing me here. The Claytons are wonderful people. They are, Hunter agreed. They've been good to me too. How long have you worked for them? About 6 months. I'm not usually one to stay in one place too long. Amelia perched on a nearby hay bale, smoothing her skirts. Today she wore one of Maggie's altered dresses, a simple blue cotton that complemented her coloring. Why is that, she asked, the not staying in one place? Hunter shrugged, uncomfortable with the personal question. Just the way I prefer it. That sounds lonely. It's simpler, he corrected. No attachments means no disappointments. Amelia considered this. Is that why you've been avoiding me? The directness of her questions startled him into honesty. I haven't been. You have, she interrupted gently. It's all right, I understand caution. I've learned it myself these past months. Hunter set down his work and looked at her properly. In the week since she'd arrived at the ranch, some of the haunted look had left her eyes, and she'd gained a little weight on Maggie's hearty cooking. She was truly beautiful, in an unassuming way that snuck up on a person. It's not personal, he said finally. I just think it's better if we keep things professional. Because you're afraid of attachments, Amelia said, not as a question but a statement. Because you're clearly running from something, Hunter countered. And I've learned that other people's troubles have a way of becoming your own if you let them too close. Hurt flashed across her face before she masked it. I see. Well, I wouldn't want to burden you with my troubles, Mr. Prescott. She stood abruptly. Enjoy the lemonade. She was halfway to the door when Hunter called after her. Amelia, wait. When she paused without turning, he sighed. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? Hunter struggled to articulate feelings he barely understood himself. I've lost everyone I ever cared about. My ma to fever when I was 12. My pa to an Apache raid 3 years back. I've seen what this country does to people who aren't hard enough, who care too much. Amelia turned back, her expression softening. And you think caring makes you vulnerable? Doesn't it? Hunter asked. Maybe. She took a step toward him. Or maybe it gives you something worth fighting for. Before Hunter could respond, a shout came from outside. Silas's eldest son, Thomas, burst into the barn. Hunter, Pa says riders coming, 3 men looking serious. Hunter was on his feet instantly. Stay here, he told Amelia, noting the sudden fear in her eyes. If they're who I think they are, I won't let them near you. He grabbed his gun belt from where it hung on a nail and strapped it on as he followed Thomas out of the barn. In the distance, he could see 3 horsemen approaching the main house at a steady pace. Silas stood on the porch, rifle held casually but ready. Hunter joined him, hand resting on the butt of his Colt. Friends of yours? Silas asked quietly. Not mine, Hunter replied, but I've got a feeling they might be looking for our new housekeeper. The riders pulled up in the yard, dust billowing around their horses' hooves. The man in front was expensively dressed for the frontier, a tailored suit that had seen better days, a gold watch chain visible across his vest. His companions had the hard look of hired guns. Afternoon, Silas called. What can we do for you gentlemen? The well-dressed man removed his hat, revealing thinning brown hair and cold eyes. I'm looking for a young woman, blonde, pretty, 20 years old, name of Amelia Adler. I have reason to believe she might be in these parts. Hunter kept his expression neutral, but inwardly he tensed. Whoever this man was, the predatory gleam in his eyes set off every warning instinct Hunter possessed. And who might be asking? Silas inquired politely, though Hunter could hear the steel beneath the courtesy. Forgive my manners, Edgar Thornton of Denver. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Miss Adler is my fiancée. She's been unwell. Ran away in a state of confusion. Her family is very concerned. Hunter felt a cold anger building inside him. Fiancé, the fear in Amelia's eyes told a different story. Haven't seen anyone by that description, Hunter said before Silas could respond. Lot of territory out here, she could be anywhere. Thornton's gaze shifted to Hunter, assessing. And you are? Just a ranch hand, Hunter replied evenly. I see. Thornton replaced his hat. Well, if you do happen to encounter Miss Adler, I'm offering a substantial reward for information leading to her return, $500. One of Thornton's companions handed Silas a paper. a crude wanted poster with a sketched likeness of Amelia and the reward amount prominently displayed. "That's mighty generous for a confused fiancé," Silas observed. Thornton's smile tightened. "She's very precious to me. We'll be staying in Golden Creek for the next few days. Anyone with information can find me at the hotel." He tipped his hat. "Good day, gentlemen." As they rode away, Hunter and Silas exchanged looks. "You want to tell me what that was about?" Silas asked quietly. "Not entirely sure myself," Hunter admitted, "but I'd bet my last dollar that man means her harm." Silas studied the wanted poster, then deliberately tore it in half. "Maggie's taken a shine to the girl. So have the children," he looked at Hunter, "and unless I miss my guess, so have you." Hunter didn't deny it. "What do we do?" "We protect our own," Silas said simply. "But we need to know what we're protecting her from. Get the truth from her, Hunter, all of it." Hunter found Amelia in the barn where he'd left her, white-faced and trembling. "It was him, wasn't it?" she asked. "Edgar Thornton." Hunter nodded. "He says he's your fiancé." Amelia's laugh was brittle. "Is that what he's claiming now?" "Why don't you tell me the truth?" Hunter suggested, leading her deeper into the barn where they couldn't be overheard. "All of it." She sank onto a hay bale, suddenly looking exhausted. "Edgar Thornton was my employer in Denver. I was hired as governess to his 2 children after his wife died. At first, he was perfectly professional, even kind. But then, he wanted more," Hunter guessed when she faltered. Amelia nodded. "He began making advances. When I refused him, he became insistent, said no one would believe me over him. He's a powerful man in Denver, a banker with political connections." "Did he hurt you?" Hunter asked, his voice tight with controlled rage. "He tried." Amelia's hands twisted in her lap. "One night he had been drinking. He came to my room. I fought him off and ran. I took nothing but a few belongings and what little money I had saved." She looked up, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I didn't steal from him, Hunter, I swear it. But he's accused me of theft to justify hunting me down." Hunter believed her instantly. The fear in her eyes was too real, too raw to be fabricated. "We won't let him take you," he promised. "You don't understand," Amelia said urgently. "He's obsessed. He won't stop. And now I've put all of you in danger. The Claytons have been so kind, and if anything happened to them because of me—" "Nothing will happen to anyone," Hunter cut her off. "Silas Clayton is respected in these parts. The sheriff is his friend. We'll figure this out." Amelia looked unconvinced. "I should leave, draw him away from here." "And go where?" Hunter demanded. "No, running isn't the answer." He knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "Trust me, Amelia, trust us. You don't have to face this alone anymore." She searched his face, and whatever she saw there seemed to reassure her. "All right," she whispered, "but be careful. He's not what he seems. There's a cruelty in him that he hides well." Hunter squeezed her hands. "I've met men like him before. They're only brave when they think they have the upper hand." The sound of approaching footsteps made them both look up. Maggie Clayton stood in the barn doorway, her normally cheerful face grave. "Silas told me what happened," she said, coming to sit beside Amelia. "My dear girl, why didn't you tell us you were in such trouble?" "I was ashamed," Amelia admitted. "And afraid you wouldn't believe me over someone like Edgar Thornton." Maggie wrapped a motherly arm around Amelia's shoulders. "In my experience, men who have to hunt women down aren't the sort any decent person should believe." The simple statement brought tears to Amelia's eyes. "Thank you." "Now then," Maggie said briskly, "we need a plan. Silas is riding to town to speak with Sheriff Barton. Hunter, you'll stay close to the house, and Amelia will continue as normal, but you don't go anywhere alone, understand?" Amelia nodded, and Hunter was struck by the transformation in her posture. The support of the Claytons seemed to have given her new strength. "This isn't just your fight anymore," he told her quietly as they walked back to the house. She looked up at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "I'm beginning to believe that." The next few days passed in tense vigilance. Silas returned from town with news that Sheriff Barton was skeptical of Thornton's claims, but could do little officially without evidence of wrongdoing on either side. The wanted poster wasn't a legal document, merely an offer of reward, and Thornton had been careful to avoid direct accusations of theft. "Barton says he'll keep an eye on Thornton and his men," Silas reported, "but we're mostly on our own here." Hunter took to sleeping in the barn rather than the bunkhouse, positioning himself between the main house and the approach road. Despite the danger, or perhaps because of it, he found himself spending more time with Amelia. They talked late into the evenings after the children were asleep, sharing stories of their pasts. He told her about growing up on the frontier, losing his mother, and his father's struggle to raise a son alone. She spoke of her childhood in Philadelphia, the death of her parents in a fire when she was 17, and her decision to seek employment out west rather than depend on distant relatives. "We're both orphans," she observed one evening as they sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance in the gathering darkness. "Perhaps that's why we recognize something in each other." Hunter nodded. "We've learned to stand on our own." "Yes, but at what cost?" Amelia turned to him, her face earnest in the lamplight spilling from the window. "I've been thinking about what you said about attachments making you vulnerable. You're not wrong. But isn't a life without connection just existing?" Hunter considered this, maybe, but existence is safer. Safer but empty. She hesitated, then added softly, "These past days, despite everything, I've felt more alive than I have in years. Being part of the Claytons' home, having people who care what happens to me, having you watching over me, it matters, Hunter." The sincerity in her voice moved something deep within him. For the first time in years, Hunter allowed himself to imagine a different kind of life, one with roots, with connection, one with Amelia in it. The moment was shattered by the sound of galloping hooves. Hunter was on his feet instantly, hand going to his gun as a rider came tearing up the drive. It was Thomas Clayton, returning from an errand in town. "They're coming." He shouted, barely waiting for his horse to stop before jumping down. "Thornton and his men, and they've got others with them. 6, maybe 7 riders total." Silas emerged from the house, rifle in hand. "When?" "Right behind me," Thomas gasped. 20 minutes, maybe less." Hunter turned to Amelia, whose face had gone pale. "Get inside, stay with Maggie and the children." She clutched his arm. "Hunter, please." "Go," he said gently. "I promised to protect you, let me keep that promise." Silas was already issuing orders, sending Thomas to gather the other ranch hands. Hunter helped secure the house, positioning men at strategic points around the property. By the time they heard the approaching riders, they were as ready as they could be. Thornton rode at the front of the group, looking incongruous in his city clothes among the rough-looking men he'd hired. They pulled up in the yard, facing Silas, Hunter, and 3 ranch hands who stood on the porch. "Mr. Clayton," Thornton called, "I believe you've been harboring my fiancée." "I've come to take her home." "Funny thing about that," Silas replied calmly. "The lady doesn't want to go with you, and on my property, what the lady wants matters a great deal." Thornton's face hardened. "She's not in her right mind. And she's a thief besides. Hand her over and we'll forget this unpleasantness." "You've got no legal authority here," Hunter stated. "The sheriff knows we've got a woman working for us, and he knows you're looking for her. If anything happens to any of us, you'll hang." A cruel smile played around Thornton's mouth. Bold words from a ranch hand, but who's to say what happened here? 7 witnesses will swear you drew first. Tragic how these frontier disputes end in bloodshed. The threat hung in the air like gunsmoke. Hunter's hand hovered near his pistol, calculating odds. 7 against 5 weren't good, but they had the advantage of position and righteous cause. Before anyone could make a move, the front door opened. Amelia stepped onto the porch, head high despite the fear evident in her rigid posture. "Amelia, no," Hunter hissed, but she ignored him. "If I come with you peacefully," she addressed Thornton, her voice carrying clearly in the tense silence, "will you leave these people alone?" Thornton's face lit with triumph. "Of course, my dear. I have no quarrel with them." "Don't believe him," Hunter warned, stepping closer to her. "He'll kill us all anyway." "Such melodrama," Thornton scoffed. "I merely want what's mine." "I am not yours," Amelia stated, her voice stronger now. "I never was, I never will be." Thornton's expression darkened. "You ungrateful little—" "I wouldn't finish that sentence if I were you," interrupted a new voice. Sheriff Barton rode into the yard, accompanied by 4 deputies. "Not if you want to maintain any pretense of being a gentleman." Hope surged through Hunter as the balance of power shifted perceptibly. "Sheriff," Thornton acknowledged stiffly. "This is a private matter." "Not anymore," Barton dismounted casually, but Hunter noted his hand rested near his gun. "You see, after our talk I got curious, sent a telegraph to Denver about you. Interesting replies came back this morning." For the first time, Thornton looked uncertain. What are you talking about? Seems you've got a reputation with young women in your employ. 3 governesses before Miss Adler, all of whom left under mysterious circumstances. One of them recently found the courage to make a formal complaint. The Denver authorities are very interested in speaking with you. Thornton's face contorted with rage. You're bluffing. Am I? Barton produced a telegram from his pocket. I've got a Denver marshal and 2 deputies arriving on tomorrow's stage to escort you back for questioning. So you have a choice, Mr. Thornton. Leave peacefully now and meet them in town tomorrow, or resist and I'll hold you in my jail tonight. Either way, your hunting days are over. For a tense moment, Hunter thought Thornton might choose violence. His hand twitched toward his jacket where a gun likely waited, but a glance at the overwhelming forces against him seemed to deflate his courage. This isn't over, he spat, looking directly at Amelia. No one makes a fool of me. You managed that all on your own, Sheriff Barton observed dryly. Now ride out, all of you. My deputies will escort you to the town limits. With a final venomous glare, Thornton wheeled his horse around. His hired guns, seeing the odds had turned decisively against them, followed without protest. Only when they had disappeared down the road did Hunter allow himself to breathe freely. He turned to find Amelia watching him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. It's over, she asked, as if afraid to believe it. Hunter looked to Sheriff Barton, who nodded. It's over, miss. The Denver authorities have been building a case against him for months. Your testimony could help ensure he never bothers another woman. The relief was too much. Amelia's knees buckled and Hunter caught her, supporting her weight easily. I've got you, he murmured, echoing his words from the night they'd met. You're safe now. This time she believed him. That evening, after the excitement had died down and the sheriff had departed with promises to return the next day to take Amelia's statement, Hunter found her sitting alone on a bench in Maggie's garden. Moonlight silvered her hair and cast soft shadows across her face as she gazed up at the star-filled sky. Mind if I join you? He asked. She smiled, patting the space beside her. I was hoping you would. Hunter sat conscious of her warmth beside him in the cool night air. For a while they were content in companionable silence. What happens now? He finally asked. Amelia sighed. I don't know. Sheriff Barton says I'll need to testify against Edgar in Denver eventually, but after that, she turned to face him. I've been without a real home for so long. First after my parents died, then as a governess in strangers' houses, always an outsider looking in. You're not an outsider here, Hunter said. Maggie's already talking about how she can't imagine running this household without you. And you, Amelia asked softly. Can you imagine this place without me? The question laid bare the crossroads Hunter had been approaching since the night he found her in the rain. The safe path, the one he'd walked for years, would be to deflect, to maintain his distance. But something in him had fundamentally changed. No, he admitted, I can't. I thought you didn't believe in attachments, she reminded him, though her eyes held no accusation, only gentle understanding. I didn't, Hunter acknowledged, or at least I convinced myself I didn't, but these past weeks, he struggled to find the words. When I saw Thornton threatening you, I realized something. The fear of losing you was worse than never having you in my life at all. Amelia's breath caught. What are you saying, Hunter? He took her hands in his, marveling at how right they felt there. I'm saying that maybe we're both orphans who have been too afraid to build a family of our own. Maybe we've both been running, me from connections, you from the past, but I don't want to run anymore. He met her gaze steadily. Not if I could run toward you instead. Tears spilled down Amelia's cheeks, but her smile was radiant. I think I've been waiting my whole life to hear someone say that to me. I'm not a wealthy man, Hunter cautioned. I've saved some money, enough to maybe stake a small claim of our own someday, but it would be a hard life, especially at first. Do you think I care about that? Amelia asked. I've seen wealth up close, Hunter. It didn't make Thornton any less of a monster. I'd rather have honest work and a true heart any day. Hunter reached up to brush a tear from her cheek. I'm not sure I deserve you. Funny, she whispered. I was thinking the same thing about you. Their first kiss was gentle, a promise exchanged under the vast Colorado sky. When they finally broke apart, Hunter felt as though something long broken inside him had begun to heal. 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, Hunter and Amelia were married in the Clayton's garden. Silas stood as Hunter's best man, and Maggie wept openly as Amelia walked toward the makeshift altar, radiant in a simple white dress with wildflowers in her hair. Sheriff Barton attended the ceremony, bringing news that Edgar Thornton had been convicted on multiple counts and would spend many years in prison. The nightmare was truly over. After the celebration, Hunter led his bride to a wagon loaded with their belongings and wedding gifts from the Claytons. "Ready for our adventure, Mrs. Prescott?" he asked, helping her up to the seat. Amelia's smile outshone the sun. "More than ready." They rode toward their new home, a small ranch Hunter had purchased with his savings and a loan from Sila's. It wasn't much yet, a sturdy cabin, some decent grazing land, and a creek running clear and sweet along the northern boundary. "But it was theirs, it needs work," Hunter said apologetically as they pulled up before the cabin, "and a woman's touch." "It's perfect," Amelia declared, "because it's ours." Hunter helped her down from the wagon, but instead of letting her walk to the door, he swept her into his arms. "What are you doing?" she laughed. "Carrying my wife across our threshold," Hunter replied. "Isn't that the tradition?" "I believe it is," Amelia agreed, wrapping her arms around his neck. As Hunter carried her into the home they would build together, he remembered the night he'd found her standing in the rain, lost, afraid, alone. He'd taken her into his arms then out of duty and compassion. Now he held her out of love, a love that had transformed them both. "Welcome home, Amelia," he said softly. Her answer was a kiss, full of promise for all the days to come.